Hi, welcome to my channel, Maria Hearts Yarn. Today we are going to be crocheting a turkey hat. So let's begin. Okay, we are going to begin with our 5mm crochet hook and our brown yarn. We are going to start with a magic circle, and then we are going to chain 3. For this pattern, the 6 to 12 month hat, we are going to do 9 cluster stitches into our magic circle. So to begin, we are going to yarn over, insert into the magic circle, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over, insert into the magic circle, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Now we have 3 loops on our hook. We are going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. Let's do that again. We need to do this 9 times total. So we are going to yarn over, insert into the magic circle, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over, insert into the magic circle again, pull up a loop, yarn over, insert into the first 2 loops, yarn over, and insert into the last 3 loops on our hook. So that's our second cluster stitch. We are going to continue until we have 9. Okay, so now I just finished the 9th cluster stitch. So now we are going to pull our magic circle closed, and then we need to find our chain 3, and then we need a slip stitch to our first cluster stitch. Now for row 2, we are going to chain 3. Now for this row, we need to increase. So this is starting at the top of the hat. We need to increase. So now we are going to do 2 cluster stitches and do each stitch around. And since we did 9 cluster stitches around our first row, we this time will end with 18 cluster stitches. So let's begin. 1 and 2 into the same stitch, 2 into the next stitch, and we are going to continue this all the way around. And then we are going to slip stitch to the first, chain 3. Now for row 3, we are going to do 2 cluster stitches into the first stitch, and then 1 cluster stitch into the next. And then we will do 2 cluster stitches into the next stitch, and oops. And then 1 cluster stitch in the next. You will continue this pattern, 2 cluster stitches and then 1 cluster stitch into the next until we reach the beginning. Okay, now for row 4, we are going to do 2 cluster stitches into the first stitch. And then we are going to do 1 cluster stitch in the next, and 1 cluster stitch in the next one. So 2 cluster stitches into the same stitch, and then 1 cluster stitch into the next 2 stitches. Alright, and one more time. So we have 2 cluster stitches into the same stitch, and then 1 cluster stitch into the next 2 stitches. And we will repeat this pattern until we reach the beginning. Okay, so for row 5, we are going to slip stitch, chain 3, and we're going to just do 1 cluster stitch into each stitch around. We are going to do this on rows 5 until we reach row 9, and I'll meet you guys back here at the end of row 9. So I just finished up row 9. We are going to slip stitch to our first cluster stitch. We are going to chain 1. Now, what we're going to do is now we're starting on our ear flap. So first we're going to do 2 single crochets in this first stitch, and 1 single crochet in the next. We're going to complete this sequence a total of 3 times. So we're going to do this 2 more times. So we're going to go 2 single crochet, 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets, 1 single crochet. Now we're going to chain 1 and turn. We are going to single crochet 2 together. And then we are going to single crochet in each of the last stitches of this row. Alright, and now we're going to, so there's 7 single crochets after the single crochet 2 together. Now we're going to chain 1 again, and we are going to, in the first 2, we are going to single crochet 2 together, and then continue single crocheting across. We are going to complete this until we get to the top of our ear flap, doing the same thing throughout. So we're only decreasing on those first couple of stitches. Alright, so this one we're doing 2 together, and then there's 1 single crochet, and then the next one we'll just chain 1, turn our work, single crochet 2 together, and then I like to chain 1 here. Okay, so now we are going to cut our yarn. Okay, so now, as you can see right here, this is where we slip stitched. So I like this to stay as the back of our hat. So on the front side here, we are going to count 12 stitches because 12 stitches is going to be between each of our ear flaps. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right, so I'm going to join my next one here. I'm going to join with a slip stitch. And again, we're going to do 2 single crochets and then 1 single crochet. We're going to do this a total of 3 times. So 2 single crochet, 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets, 1 single crochet. All right, so we have 1, 2, 3. All right, we're going to chain 1, turn our work. We are going to single crochet 2 together, and then we're going to single crochet in the next 7 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, chain 1, turn our work. right, so single crochet, 2 together, 1 single crochet, chain 1, single crochet, 2 together, and I also do a chain 1 on this side as well. Now I like to make a border around it. First I'm going to cut off the brown yarn because I choose to make my border in orange. You can make it in brown or yellow or green or whatever color you prefer. So I just add my yarn, chain 1, and we're going to go all the way around our hat. Now, when I do this, I do 2 single crochets into 1 stitch, 1 single crochet into the next. So 2. All right, so I will meet you back once I complete the border around my entire hat. All right, so finished with that. Gonna cut this back. I don't like what this one looks like. Okay, so here is our hat so far. So now I'm going to begin on making our feathers. So for the feathers, I use orange, green, yellow, and brown. In the feather, we are going to do a slip knot and chain 8. Okay, and in the second chain from the hook, we're going to single crochet. In the next chain, we are going to half double crochet. In the next, we are going to double crochet. Then in the next one, we will triple crochet. Now, we're going to be working down the other side. So from triple crochet, we'll go to double crochet. Then we'll do a half double crochet. And then we will do a single crochet in the last chain. Now, we will chain 2. And in that same stitch that we just did that single crochet in, we're going to do another single crochet. Now we're going to be working on the other side of the feather. So we already did our single crochet, so we're going to do a half double crochet. Next we'll do double crochet. Then we'll do a triple crochet. Then another double crochet. Half double crochet. And then in the last stitch, we will do a single crochet, and then I slip stitch to the first single crochet. And then cut your tail, but you want a long enough tail because what we're going to do with each of these feathers is we're going to make 2 in each color because I take cardboard and I stick them between the 2 so that they stand up better. So leave a long tail on this so that we can use that to sew the 2 of them together. So you will continue this on to make 2 feathers in each color that you choose. I do 4 feathers on the top of the hat, but you can of course choose to do as many as you want, or you can choose to leave them off. So I'll meet you back here once I have all of my feathers made. Now that we have finished all of the feathers, I like to make a single crochet all of them together so that when we put it onto our hat, we can just sew it on as one piece instead of each individual feather. I also have realized that when I do it this way, it makes the feathers a little bit more sturdy. So to do that, we are going to slip knot. Make sure that you leave a long tail because what I do is I take this tail and go along the front of the feathers on the hat, and then I take our end tail and go along the back. Okay, so I'm going to start with this one here, and I just go into the side here and I do 3 single crochets along the feather. Okay, so then I just make another long tail, pull that through. All right, so there is that. So that's going to go on the top of our hat, kind of like that. Now next I'm going to make our eyes. Since this hat is so small, I am changing to a 3.5 millimeter hook because if I do the 5 millimeter hook, the eyes will just be too big. But if you want big eyes, stay with that hook, or if you're doing a bigger hat and just using this as a guideline, then, you know, do whatever fits your needs the best. So I did a magic circle. Now I'm going to do 6 single crochets into the magic circle. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now, starting with this very first single crochet, I'm going to do 2 single crochets into that first stitch. So 1, 2, and then I pull this tight at this point. You can pull it tight before this, but to find that first single crochet from our first round, I like to wait to pull it tight. So 2, 3, 4. So I'm doing 2 single crochets into each stitch around. So we're going to have 12 single crochets total. Okay, and then at this point, I'm going to, I don't have a stitch marker handy, but I'm just going to use this yarn to mark our place. For this next row, we are going to do 2 single crochets into the first stitch, and then 1 single crochet into the next. So there we have our 2 single crochets in the first, 1 single crochet in the next, 2 single crochets in the first stitch, 1 single crochet in the next. We are going to repeat this until we make it all the way around. Okay, now if we can see, here is our eye, and at this point we can decide to stop it here, or we can do one more row around, and I'm going to stop mine here. So to stop, I'm just going to do a slip stitch into the next stitch. I'm going to cut off, leave a long tail, because that's what we will use to sew it onto our hat. So there's one eye. Okay, I'm going to make my second eye, and then I'll see you guys back here. Okay, now I'm going to make my beak. I am doing this, I'm back to my 5mm crochet hook and the orange yarn. You can do the beak in whatever color you prefer. This is what I prefer. All right, so I'm going to do a slip knot, and then I'm going to chain 6. And in the second chain from our hook, I'm going to single crochet, and then I'm going to single crochet in each stitch across. And then once we get to the end of that, we are going to chain 1, turn. We are going to skip our first single crochet, which is right here, and we're going to single crochet in the next stitch, and then each stitch across, with a total of 4 single crochets. And then we are going to chain 1, turn. Again, we are going to skip this first single crochet and single crochet into each stitch. So 1, 2, 3, chain 1, turn, skip the first stitch, then we have 1 and 2, chain 1, turn, skip a stitch, 1 single crochet here. All right, then we're going to chain 1. We are going to turn our work, and now I'm going to do 1 single crochet around, putting 2 single crochets into the corner stitches. Oops. All right, so I'm going to put 2 into that one. And looking back to this, I may take this out and redo this in a smaller hook, because it might be a little bit too big for our turkey face here. So once we get to the end there, going to slip stitch into that first one and cut off our yarn, because we are going to use the tail to sew it onto our hat. And then with that, I just pull that loose one up, snip it, and then it disappears. And yeah, that's a little too big for this hat. So if you don't like how big that is on your hat, do the same thing that I'm going to do. I'm just going to really quick switch back to that 3.5 millimeter crochet hook and give my turkey a little bit smaller of a beak. So I'll see you guys back here after that, and then we are going to go on to doing the braided braids along the bottom of our ear flaps is next. Okay, much better. I like that much more. Okay, so now we are going to take our green yarn, and I'm sorry, I can't really get a very good view of this, so bear with me on this part of it. I don't really have a setup that I can zoom out enough for you guys to see everything that I'm doing. So pretty much the technique with this is get all 3 colored yarn, or whatever color, however many colors you want to do for the bottom of the ear flaps. This is for the braid. So what you need to do is you need to figure out how long you want this. So say, because what we're going to do is we're going to cut the yarn, and then to get it on here, we're going to fold it in half. So pretty much whatever length you want, you need to double it. So really, I hope that makes sense. Because yeah, I can't show you guys exactly what to do. And as you've been hearing, I have a 2-year-old in the background, but she cannot help. So let's see. Okay, so I just cut my first one, and I always try it out to see if it's as long as I would like. And let's see here. And yeah, that's pretty good. So now this part will be how thick you want the braids. What I like to do is I like to cut 3 at a time, and I like to do this 4 times for my thickness. You can see what this turns out, and then that can help you decide if you like the thickness that I went with, or if you want yours to be thicker or not as thick. Okay, so there's one of them. Okay, so now to do this, I hold it up with my hand like this, and I make sure that they are as close as possible as being even on the bottom. Now we want to grab our hat, and in the earpiece here, I like to go in the center loop there. You can go, up here if you want to. I like it to be a little bit more sturdy back here. So what I do is I insert my hook, and sometimes I do a bigger hook. Hopefully this one will work okay. The bigger hook just helps grab this bunch of yarn better. So maybe it'll cooperate enough with me to do this. Okay, so I grab it and pull it through. Wonderful. Okay, put down your hook, and now make sure you have everything. Make sure there's no loose ends down here, and just loop this right on through and pull it tight. You can leave it like this, or I prefer to do another knot here. All right, so that is what it looks like. All right, I'm going to do the other side. See you back in a minute. So both sides are done. At this point, I put one off to the side, put the other one in front of me, and I like to separate the colors. So it doesn't really matter if they're twisted. I would make sure that they're not really twisted, but you'll see once we get to the end here that I can pretty well make it look okay, hopefully. Okay. And if you just pull them tight, it gives them a nice finish. Okay, so from this point, we will begin to braid. Okay, and then once we get down to the bottom, all we do is we tie another knot. Don't make the knot too tight, and I'll show you why in just a minute. So just make sure you have some of them out, but don't tighten it. I'll be right back to show you why. So my braids are finished. Now this is the reason why I do not tighten them very much, is I want to make sure before I tighten them too much that both of my braids... Okay, so, yeah, I just make sure that they are the same length, and they look pretty close, so I'm going to tighten them both and make sure that they are. Okay, and then with the ends, I just trim these off. Okay, so there is that. Now we're going to start assembling the rest of the pieces. So let me get them all together and let's begin. I always begin with the beak and I measure it to be in the middle. So what I do is I go from each starting stitch of each of the ear flaps and then I count in to the middle. And I already marked it just to make sure that the camera didn't get in my way. So I did that, and then now to sew this on. Now if you know how to do this, just skip through this. When I first started crocheting, nobody's video showed this, and I had a really hard time and a long time figuring out how to do this. So I am going to actually walk through of exactly how to do this. So I pull it through there, and then lay your piece flat and figure out where you want it to be sewn onto the hat. And then I go to the next place. Okay, and I just continue doing this around. So I just lay it flat and then go behind the back and you will see my end product. So that's done. My one other pointer that I forgot to mention in the beginning was I like to put a towel in the hat before I begin sewing everything on. This just makes sure that you don't end up snagging a piece from the back and making your two pieces be together and don't realize until you're done. So I just like to put that in there just because it's obviously a towel that I won't easily snag. So we will continue this with the eyes. I just now place the eyes a little bit farther up than the nose, like this, to where they're pretty close to one another. And then I will be back to show you how I do the feathers. Now on to the feathers. So I turn my hat upside down and I lay them about where I would like them, make sure that they're centered. All right, and then I start by just making sure I'm going into both pieces, meaning the single crochet that we attached our feathers with and the hat. Oops. So I do this all the way across. Now we're on to our final step. Our feathers are all in place, and all you will need is a needle and thread and then 2 buttons of your choice, and you can put them wherever you would like. And that is it. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. See you next time.